What up, dudes, and welcome to my first ever episode of my brand new cooking channel. I'm going to start off with the hardest thing you can think of to make, and that is Tonkotsu Ramen, because my friend challenged me to do so. So without further ado, let's get into the multi-day affair that is making ramen from scratch. Minus the noodles, because I don't have time. I just can't be bothered when you can buy really nice noodles from a grocery store. Oh, and also, every recipe on this channel will be gluten-free, because I'm gluten intolerant, but I will be listing non-gluten-free ingredients to use if you don't have an allergy. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, first up in this recipe, we're going to ask Ratatouille if he'll make it for us. He's obviously going to say no, but that's okay, because we're going to get some pork belly, slap it down on the counter, and then just slap it around. This is very important to the process. You got to slap the pork belly, mostly because it's satisfying. Then we're going to get ourselves some cooking twine, and we are going to take this out of the package very slowly. Then we're going to lie it gingerly back down on the table. Make sure that we put on our gloves that we should have been wearing from the beginning, because we are going to get messy with this bad boy. Now, clap your hands and do weird fingers over it. Put the cooking twine underneath the meat. We're going to use about 3 to 4 different pieces of twine individually. It should look just like this. Now we're going to wrap that bad boy up into a good old swirl, and we are going to struggle to actually tie this off into a knot. The more you struggle, the more it's going to taste better later. Now, jump cut to the future, tie off your other end right there. And then we're going to move on to the middle, tie it off into a simple knot. Make sure you cut off the excess pieces of twine, because we don't need that. Flip it over, give it a couple pats so it's reassured. Show it off to the camera, and now you have a rolled up chashu. Take another different angle of this chashu. Look at your pot, look at your chashu. Realize you failed geometry in middle school, and this is not going to fit inside of your pot. Very clearly. So, painstakingly, take your chashu and chop it in half. That way you can actually fit it into your pot. Make sure that you cut it directly in half and get it in 2 cuts. That way the internet could yell at you for cutting up your chashu in half. Now we are going to slam down some vegetable oil next to our pot instead of pouring it in there. After you've poured it in there, brown your chashu so it gets a nice caramelization like this, then put it off to the side to rest. In the meantime, we are going to take some ginger, and we are just going to get a rough chop on this, making sure to almost slice your fingers open. Look at that chopping action. Absolute saint. Now point at the ginger you just chopped. Now we are going to take a shallot, and we're going to take the bottom and top part off of it, because those parts are yucky, but we are going to leave the skin on because that actually has a lot of flavor. We just don't want the dirty parts. Now chop it in half, and that's it. That's all we need. Now, all of that at the bottom of the pot, that's fond, and that is pure flavor. We want that. So we're going to deglaze with 1 cup of sake. Then we're going to add 1 cup of mirin to this. 1 cup of water. 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce. I am using gluten-free soy sauce. There's our mirin from earlier. Mirin is a kind of sweet Japanese wine. We're also going to toss in 3 garlic cloves with a nice smash. Use your knife like this to smash. We're going to grab our shallots and our ginger from earlier, and we're going to just stick this in there once this starts getting to a low boil. This is really going to bring out some flavors, and these aromatics are going to be delicious and really breathe some deep flavor into our pork. Add 1/4 cup of sugar because you forgot to do so earlier. And because you also forgot to do so, chop up 1 bunch of green onions, getting rid of the roots. We just need these cut into 3rds, nothing special. I just said nothing special, why did I do it into 4s? Toss this into our broth. Boil vigorously. And then add our giant piece of pork in there. Make the worst lid you can out of aluminum foil, poking holes into it. And then you are going to cook this for 2.5 hours. Occasionally taking off that really hot lid with your bare fingers and rotating the pork. So you get a nice color all the way through. Look at how delicious that looks. And look at how I burn my fingers. Now we're going to move on to our ramen eggs. You can boil some eggs, or you can buy one of these things and let it sing you the song of its people. And then when it's done, you're going to take these out and put them into an ice bath. We want a nice soft boil. Take that aluminum foil lid off again and stare at your pork. Clicking your tongs. And then removing said pork. Smells good. Do not throw this away. We are going to use this for our ramen eggs. Now, go to your eggs and ruin the first one that you peel. That is your sacrificial egg. You get to snack on this egg. Delicious. Look at that. Now, hold it up to the camera so everybody can see how much of a failure you are at peeling soft-boiled eggs. And then poke that yolk. So people do know that it is soft-boiled, just ripped in half. Then eat that egg. Now, we're going to take that pork broth using your widest strainer to strain out some of the bigger, fattier parts. And then we're going to scrape it off with a paper towel to get the fat off the top, and then put another paper towel on top to make sure we get even color all the way around. Then add 2 more eggs inexplicably. Take the chashu and we're going to wrap it up in some plastic wrap, and we're going to put that in the fridge overnight. Look at that. That's some good looking chashu. Oh yeah, that's going to be delicious. In the fridge it goes. Now, also, we're going to take our 2 pounds of pork necks and our 2 pounds of pork hocks. We're going to put them in the bowl, fill them up in water, and put them in the fridge overnight. And if I didn't mention it before, we're doing all this the day before we make our ramen. The reason we're doing this is we want the hemoglobin to come out of that pork. Say goodnight to it, and then move on. The next day, we're going to make our tare. We're going to pour in a 1/4 cup of sake in a pan that is way too hot, adding an extra splash for flavor. We are then going to put in 1/2 cup of mirin. Then we're going to add a 1/2 cup of soy sauce. Using a Japanese shoyu would be better for this, but if you're gluten intolerant, use a tamari. Then we're going to bring this to a boil. Look at that bad boy boil. Smell that flavor. Now we're going to add 1 cup of bonito flakes. These are dried fish flakes. And then we're going to give it a nice little shake to make sure everything gets well incorporated. Then we are going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And then we're going to remember that we forgot to put in MSG and sprinkle in about a 1/2 teaspoon of MSG. Take everything you did and through a fine mesh strainer, pour it out into your container that you're going to keep this in. Make sure to get all those good bits out. We want that flavor.
You didn't stop.
Done?
And then we're just going to let it sit for a minute and push it down with our chopsticks to make sure we get any of those juices out. And let me tell you, this smells like a delicious, delicious bonfire. I know that sounds weird and it doesn't sound tasty, but it smells like a bonfire that's good. Now pose awkwardly with your tare, being proud that you made it. Failed to put a lid on in one try, and watch as your wife refuses to cut away from you struggling. Thumbs up. In the fridge it goes. Now that it's the next day, we're going to pull out those pork bones and ham hocks that we had. Look at all that red hemoglobin. That's why we put it in there overnight. Once it's drained, we are going to put it into a pot, nice and gently. Fill it up really good. Move your bowl out of the way, and then we're going to cover it in cold water. Look at that. Nice and covered. Now we're going to take them and put them on the stove. And then we are going to bring them to a boil. In the meanwhile, get your pork fat back and realize that it has an ungodly amount of sodium that would literally kill you if you ate it. Yeah, we're going to have to boil that. Seriously, look at these salt crystals. This thing was caked in salt. If you can, buy the ones that's not salted. Bring water to the boil. Put your half pound of pork fat back into the water and boil for about 15 minutes. This is going to release all that salt off of there. Now your pork bones are boiling, you're going to want to scrape the scum off the pork bones. You don't want this is nasty. Put it into a nice little bowl off to the side. And then once it gets clear like this, we are going to take it and we are going to dump it into our sink, discarding all of this water. And we are then going to clean our pork bones. Smell that flavor. Cold water to rinse. And again, you can take a scrub brush to these to get them really clean, but honestly, a quick rinse like this is fine. Now we're going to put them into our Instapot container, and we're going to cover them up to the max fill line and over the top of the bones. Don't go above that line. I don't know what will happen, but apparently it's bad. Now we're going to lift these up and put them into our Instapot. Now put it on your lid, and we're going to set this to the pressure cook setting for exactly 90 minutes. See? 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Perfect. Now we're going to take that pork fat back that we've had boiling, and we are going to strain it off, discarding of all this water. And we're going to put it in a bowl for the side. We're not going to use this right away. See? Doesn't that look absolutely fatty? When the time's up, vent your Instapot and then remove the lid. Your house is going to smell like pork now. Take that fat back, and we're going to add this to the pot. Now this is going to add a lot of flavor, and it's going to help with emulsification later. And we're going to set this for another 90 minutes. Take some green onions and cut the roots off. We're using one bunch of green onions right here. And then we're going to do another third chop. Then we're going to get 8 cloves of garlic. And then we are going to smash them. And remove the skins. Should look like this when you're done. Now we've done all this because we are going to make our aroma oil. This is a must. Add 1 cup of lard to a pot. And then we're going to melt it. Seriously, people, don't skip on this step. The aroma oil is a must. You're doing all this work anyway. You might as well make the aroma oil. Now we're going to add our green onions and garlic to this pot. Smells good. I know y'all can't smell it, but it's delicious. And then we're going to chop another bunch of green onions. And some ginger. About 2 to 3 inches of ginger. Now we're only going to use the white parts of these onions. And we're going to save the greens for later. And we just want a rough chop on that ginger. Now as for the greens, you can chop these in little square, kind of like small cuts. Or you can go at a steep angle to make little curly cubes. We're going to use this for our soup later. You're good. Make a complete mess of it, then stick it in some ice cold water. The ice cold water is going to take off some of the off flavors, and it's going to help it curl up. I actually did not chop this correctly, so mine did not curl up, but that's okay. Check on your aroma oil. It should be boiling away like this, and then when it looks this color, we're going to take it out, and we are going to strain it through a spider strainer and put it in a container for later. As you can see, we're pouring it through here. Oh yeah. This is going to smell really good. Again, this is a must. We're only going to use a little bit of this for our ramen though. Add about a teaspoon of sesame oil to this. And then give it a good quick stir. Making sure it's all combined. Once your second 90 minutes are up, we're going to go ahead and depressurize this Instapot. And then remove the lid once it's done. I know y'all can't smell it, but this is heavenly. Take all of that pork fat back and put it in your blender. If I didn't mention it before, you want unrendered pork fat black. If you don't use the unrendered version, it will melt and you don't want that. Take a couple cups of your broth and pour it into the blender with your fat back. And then we are going to blend this on high until it is creamy and white. If need be, you can add some more broth to it. I ended up having to add more here. And as you can see, this got extremely creamy and white. This is exactly what you want. This is the color we're going for. Take out all your bones, cartilage, and other bits from your broth. And then we're going to pour it from our Instapot into a big cooking pot through a strainer to make sure we got all the bones and other gross bits out. Yep, nice and clean. Now take your emulsified broth with the fat back, and we're going to pour in here, and this is what's going to give us that nice,
like sea foam, you know?
deep,
like
rich,
sea.
white, creamy color.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice creamy broth. It's so creamy. Look at how white that is. Beautiful. Now we're going to add our ginger and our green onion bottoms to the pot. We're doing this at the end instead of at the beginning because I find that most vegetables emit all their flavor within 1 hour. We're going to take some shallots and add them in here that have been quartered, taken off the skins because we don't want to ruin that creamy color that we got. Now we're going to move on to the bamboo shoots. Open up 1 can of bamboo shoots, draining all of the liquids. And then taste test the bamboo shoots, realizing that these need to be seasoned. Yikes, they are bad on their own.
Okay.
So to a skillet, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of gluten-free soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of
I don't have to
sake.
pick on any flavor that you put it in.
Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of broth. Dashida would be better for this, but I didn't have any. Then we're going to add our bamboo shoots, and we're going to turn this up to about medium-high. Get it? So add a teaspoon of sugar, because you forgot to do so earlier. And then we're going to get it so it's nice and bubbling, and we are going to add 1 teaspoon of homemade chili oil. Don't worry, in a future video I'll teach you all how to make this when I run out of my chili oil here. And then we are going to take this and we are just going to mix it all around gently and keep cooking it until all of the liquid has reduced down and our bamboo shoots look like they do right here. With very little liquid. The less liquid that's in them, the better these are going to taste.
We're good?
And then we are going to transfer them to 2 salsa bowls along with those green onions we put in water earlier and our aroma oil, and we're going to put these off to the side. Not before we taste test and realize that these taste so much better. Now we're going to take our chashu and undo one of those pieces of twine. Then we are going to thinly slice the chashu, making ourselves about 4 cuts because we're doing 2 per bowl for me and my wife. Making sure to make it nice and thin. Look at that beautiful swirl on that. This looks fantastic. This is the reason that we chill it overnight. It makes it much easier to cut into. You can cut it while it's hot, but it will tend to shred itself as you do so.
Cold?
Now let's give ourselves a little taste test.
You got some fat on your chin. Looks like...
Then put them in a heat-proof tray or skillet. I'm using my cast iron skillet for this. Put all 4 of them in here. And then we are going to turn on our cooking torch. You can also just brown these in a skillet. You don't have to use a cooking torch for this, but I think this adds a nice touch to it. Then we're going to torch those bad boys until they're nice and sizzling and have a good sear on them. It should look like this when they're done. And don't worry about the flame. You are going to be running off some fat, and fat is flammable apparently. Who knew?
Don't be afraid, it's just the fat.
Smell that pork cooking. Flip them over and do the same thing to the other side. Give them a nice torch. And they should look like this when they're done. And then blow off that gun. Job well done. Now we're going to take out ramen eggs. Unfortunately, because of the pork fat in it, these turned into kind of a gelatin. Which I did taste test for your viewing pleasure.
That is delicious.
Huh. Is it like jelly? Like,
It's like the most savory jelly you've It's actually good.
Sweet and salty, yeah.
After you and wife have taste tested this, save it for later because we're going to use it for some. We're going to clean off those ramen eggs and slice them in half.
Beautiful.
Look at those jellied yolks. Now we're going to take our tare that we made earlier. And I'm going to spoon in 4. I do kind of wish I had done 5 for this, but 4 was good. It had a nice flavor to it. Now my wife is getting fresh ramen noodles and I'm getting faux noodles because, again, I'm gluten intolerant. Follow the directions on the noodle packages. I mean, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Strain it, rinse it, and then put it in a bowl. Nice and level.
The precision. Beautiful.
Looks good. Give it a nice little pat. Then we're going to strain out our pork broth after it's cooked for 1 hour to get rid of all of those off flavors. Ladle on top until you have a nice amount of broth.
Dressing it.
And then we're going to start adding our extras, starting with our ramen egg,
Just in time to.
Or chashu.
5% of battery left, so.
some green onions,
Charge it real fast. After this.
Okay.
Charge it really.
our bamboo shoots that we seasoned. Can't stress enough, please season these things. It is worth the effort. Otherwise, they will taste nasty.
Sorry.
And then we're going to cut up some nori into 4 sheets because we're making 2 bowls. And we're going to just place that nicely on the side. Look at that. Nice little origami with my nori. Add an extra ladle of soup because you realize you didn't have enough in there. Maybe a second one. And then we are going to add that aroma oil. Again, this is non-optional. Now, should have mentioned you can use vegetable oil for that, but I prefer the lard. And then we're going to use a nice ladle of our chili oil and a little bit of chili garlic paste because I like it spicy. And now smile with your bowl.
Good. Beautiful.
Now, for my wife, she likes miso, so we're going to add a little bit of miso paste to hers. And then ladle in some of our tonkotsu broth, making a miso tonkotsu. We only have white miso laying around, no red. Now we're going to whisk it together until it's nice and homogeneous, totally ruining that white color you had. Then, with her ramen noodles following the package directions, we're going to give them a quick rinse so you can handle them. Nice little rinse. Rooney. Not too much though, we don't want to get it too cold. Then we're going to add it to the pot with some more broth. Adding our nori sheets. Adding our ramen eggs and our chashu. I wish y'all could smell this through the screen.
Chili oil with it.
Sure.
And then we're going to add some aroma oil. Some chili oil. Some more of those bamboo shoots. Green onion. And some chili garlic sauce because she also likes it spicy. And then we're going to take it to our wife. Okay, baby, ready to eat?
Yeah.
Alright, here you go. Here's your bowl of noodles. What do you think?
Thank you.
Any first impressions?
Beautiful. Beautiful layout. Perfect color. Clear broth. Smooth broth. Good bamboo shoots. Crispy pork. Whatever it's called.
Belly. Chashu.
Chashu.
Okay, I tortured you enough. Go ahead.
Hey.
Get in there. Get a big old slurp.
Oh God. That's pressure. Delicious. Very good.
How does it taste? Be
Just
honest.
like the restaurant. Really. It's amazing.
Just like the restaurant?
Good job. Delicious.
Gonna slurp it down. Alright, I'm starving. I'm gonna eat too. Guys, I can't wait any longer. I'm gonna try some. I'm gonna dig into my gluten-free version with the faux noodles instead of ramen noodles.
What do you think, babe?
Oh yeah, that is good. Alright, I'm gonna get a ramen egg real quick that we used our chashu broth for to cook. I'm going to go ahead and eat this. Look at that yolk, though. Look at that. It's dripping. I love that. Oh, God, that's the best way to make a ramen egg.
That's really good.
Well, maybe not the best way, but that is one of the tastiest ways. And these bamboo shoots, that season really brings it home. How you doing? Too hungry to talk?
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to try this homemade chashu with some more of our broth. Oh, that's to die for. Alright, guys. This is delicious. Thank you to my friend Tristan who challenged me to do this. Alright, guys, there you have it. Tonkotsu ramen from scratch with authentic chashu and ramen eggs. What I gotta say, it's delicious. I'm gonna have to go lie down and take a nap because I am absolutely stuffed. If you could like, follow, and subscribe to this channel, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, see ya.